to try and use all of these strategies. It's just to pick one or two that you can feel like you can add to your playbook. Okay. We're going to go through some case studies. I actually went and looked at a few different ads that I thought were really good or just marketing pieces. And I want to just kind of crowdsource what you kind of identify as good marketing strategies. So as I share some of these videos, I want you to point out, what did you notice that caught your attention or why you think it is a good piece for marketing? So, and this is going to be something where feel free to throw out some questions and thoughts. We'll have this be interactive as we go through it. There we go. So first, this statement. So this is a individual I follow on Instagram. His name is Sharon, and he has some really good insight. And he said that if you stay who you were, you repeat what you've done. If you repeat what you've done, you get what you've got. If you get what you've got, you never become what you could be. The version of you that got you here won't take you there. We're moving into a world where building a personal brand is almost a requirement to grow your business. Okay. So how we did business in the past of simply making phone calls, right, or sending emails is one layer that will still be present in business in the future. But the reality is the way to build trust today is by providing immense value for an extended period of time until people actually need that service that you're providing. So what I mean by that is, how do you stay top of mind through providing solutions to today's biggest problems for buyers and sellers? And when you're showcasing that, and just market intelligence, meaning do you show data and help translate that data into terms that buyers and sellers actually understand? How many of you have posted market stats before on social media, right? How many of you know that buyers and sellers have no clue what that data actually means unless you translate it for them, right? And so what we have to do is become an advisor and actually help them understand, what does it actually mean for them as a buyer in today's market that interest rates have come down a little bit? Or what does it mean for a seller, right? How does it actually impact their buy or sell decision? So this is just a mental note that your strategy in the past may need to look different as we move forward. And so just think through the next version of you. Part of what we talk about here at KW, these 6 personal perspectives over on the wall, which is that we always have to come from a place of saying things can be better in my business. My marketing strategy can improve, I can get better, and it just have this mindset of a growth mindset, right? Rather than a fixed mindset of like, I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing, right? Because you'll continue to get the same results. So here's the 7 marketing multipliers that we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about value-based selling. We're going to talk about video storytelling, some news jacking. So how do you use news articles as a strategy to actually inform your clients, but also turn it into a real estate narrative? Micro content repurposing, education-based marketing, social proof engineering, and then first-time home buyers and building a custom GPT. For those of you who've been in some of our AI classes, we've talked about how do you use AI more effectively. Well, one strategy that I saw an agent do that I thought was actually really smart is they built a custom AI assistant that they were giving to their first-time home buyers. So rather than them just going into normal chat GPT, they say, I've actually built an assistant with my brain, and they've preloaded it. I'll actually go through the details a little bit later, but that could be an effective way to be able to utilize AI, is actually giving your clients a tool they can engage with. So that's what we're going to go through. Value-based selling. I'm going to turn this off so you guys can see a little bit better. Here's the number one thing you want to write down. If you take nothing else from this class, this is the one golden nugget. The more problems you figure out how to solve, the more income you will earn. Period. Every single buyer, seller, or investor that you serve is solving a problem in their life. They're not trying to buy a home. What problems do people typically try to solve when they're buying a property?
They need more space.
They need more space. They need less space. They need a better area. They don't want to live in the ghetto anymore, right? Of Utah County. Yes. Can't do stairs, right? Life dynamics change, seasons of life. Yeah, they want some income, right? They want revenue. Divorce. Yeah. Right? There's all these different reasons that are problems they're actually trying to solve, and that's what we need to solve. That's what we need to speak to, right? And so if we figure out how to solve these problems, which one route we've talked about before is MOFers, right? Lead magnets that give people a playbook that solves their problem. So for example, why not put together a very simple 10 steps to downsizing, right? Which all of these lead magnets you can put in, you could deliver in many different ways, but you can put every month when you send out your email newsletter, if it has market stats, you should also have a section down in the very bottom that rotates through different offers. So for example, the 10 steps to downsizing your home, or the 7 steps to selling your home in 90 days, whatever it might be. Whenever they click on that link, it should go to a landing page that captures their name, email, phone number, so you know who took advantage of that resource. And first-time home buyer guide, all these different resources should just be in your email newsletter, but you should post them on social media. You should deliver them in many different ways, but the only thing you want to be able to do is track who took advantage of that. Because what is that story telling you when they download that playbook or take advantage of that resource? That's their problem, right? So they're actually surfacing and highlighting, this is the area that's important for me, right? And in that playbook, that deliverable, it should actually solve the majority of their problem. There's a guy named Alex Hermosi who does a lot of just marketing content. And one of the things that he talks about is you want to give away the secrets and sell the implementation, is what he calls it. This is in a completely different marketing dynamic, but it applies in real estate as well, where in your playbook, literally give them the playbook. Like tell them, here's exactly what you can do. For example, a mortgage hacks playbook would be a great one right now for buyers, right? Have you been challenged by high interest rates the last couple of years? Here's 5 different ways you can get a lower monthly cost on your next home, right? And show them seller financing, show them assumable loans, show them doing a 2-1 buy down, show them new builds in Utah. 30% of our purchases are new builds. So show them builders that are offering incentives. Put it all in that playbook, give it to them for free. Now, who do you think when they're like, okay, well, I need somebody to help me actually buy the home, an agent, who's the most likely in that moment, if you just deliver that resource, who in their mind is going to pop up? You, right? So just focus on solving problems. That is the biggest key. And just for time's sake, I'm not going to go through this analogy, but it's just kind of this idea of like, you're driving down the road, you see somebody pulled over because they have a flat tire. How awkward would it be for you to get out of that car, walk up to them, and be like, what's wrong? And they say, I have a flat tire. Like, man, I wish I could help. I just don't know how to change a tire, right? And you just kind of stare awkwardly at this person. What is that individual's, the person who's actually having that bad day or that problem they're trying to solve, going to feel towards you versus the person who's like, oh, I can help. I know how to change a spare tire. And if that doesn't work, I actually have AAA and I've paid for like the extra package where I can actually tow a friend as well. So I've got multiple options to solve this problem for you, right? And so what we want to do is just be that person where we have solutions to problems. So that takes us as agents, we have to prepare. We have to figure out what are the solutions for this kind of problem, right? So take some thinking time on our part. So video storytelling. Just remember this, that stories sell and facts tell. So you really want to start getting into the frame of telling stories. How many of you have helped maybe a buyer who didn't even think they could qualify end up getting qualified for a home? Or who helped a seller in an odd experience be able to sell their property, right? Or just all the things that you have happen as an agent that pop up that seems kind of like normal to you, but it's not to the everyday buyer and seller, where you need to tell the story of like, I helped a client in this scenario or this situation. And it doesn't always have to be through video. I know sometimes that can be our roadblock, is like, I don't want to create content where like, I don't want to see my face or my voice on the content, right? So you can do written form as well. but just showcase stories of you solving other people's problems, because you're going to find other clients in your database saying, I'm in that scenario too, or I'm kind of in that same boat, right? So tell the stories of what you are solving. So client wins and transformations, behind the scenes of your process, market updates with your perspective, and then day in the life authenticity. So the question to ask is, does this make someone feel something, or does it make them just scroll to the next video? So I'm going to show you some videos on this front to give you some perspective on this. I'll tell you, I don't necessarily love the format of this, but I actually think it's an interesting idea where think through, how might I actually replicate this or use this? This is where an agent just created basically a Netflix mini documentary about his own life and about him getting into the real estate journey, why it's important to him, why he loves supporting clients through real estate. But just pay attention that he's telling a story here.
I came here to America when I was a 9-year-old boy. In America, you can go from nothing to something. You can lose it all, then you can rebuild it back and have a fresh start. And here's what I found. The harder I work, the luckier I get. I went to work for the Federal Reserve Bank. Then I worked for one of the big accounting firms, Ernst & Young. And I quickly saw no matter how good I got, I was going to have a ceiling. I ended up taking a risk, quitting my corporate job, and basically starting all over. I went and I did a photo shoot at the time, as my first business was photography, where I made more money in the 3 or 4 hours than I did 2 weeks working at my corporate job. There was a time where my wife was the one that was paying all the bills. Things didn't quite work out the way I envisioned them to. And I was literally forced to go get my real estate license. I didn't even know how to write a real estate contract, but I knew how to run real estate ads. My wife said, now is your time to shine. And within probably 24 months, I was able to not only turn things around, retire her. And then we decided to have kids, and for her to become what she really wanted to be at the time was a stay-at-home mom. My family means literally everything to me. And ultimately, the reason why I do what I do, why I work so hard, is because I want to give them a life I've never had. I always say it's the 4 S: faith, family, fitness, and finances, all in that order. Yes, I put in the work, but the work wouldn't be possible without my faith being first.
Being authentic. Being authentic and just sharing his story. Yeah. One thing that I thought was valuable, there's this saying that people do business with people that they like or people they would like to be like, right? And so part of it is that at the very end, what did he share at the very end? His values, right? So naturally, people who have similar values to him, right, which he talked about, was it faith, fitness, family, and finances, right? So anybody who has similar values or wants to have similar values are naturally going to say like, oh, that's a cool agent, right? And he's just 2 minutes sharing kind of his story, right? And I think that's also a big part of like today's world, where clients actually want a little bit more of like, they want to know like the human side of our business. They want to know you as a person rather than just what you do, right? So just think of how you might, with all the content I'm sharing with you today, some stuff may not fit your personality or vibes, but ask yourself, how can I tweak this, or how can I use this in a different way? Okay, there's this idea of being able to cross-collateralize information, meaning you can take one kind of golden nugget and repurpose it in a different format. So even if you were to just say, you know what, I'm going to actually just put a simple value statement of like very simple sentence of what my values are, and I can include that in my listing packet or I can include that in my end of recap on my emails, whatever it might be. So you don't have to do it in video format. But this is just one good example where you can tell stories about yourself. This is another one, especially with how many of you went to the Pray to Home social media opportunity that our team put together last week? Awesome. So our events committee put together a really cool experience for you to be able to go film some content in a Pray to Home. And this is one where if you have a luxury listing or if you just do it the Parade of Homes, right? This is a kind of a funny play on a property.
Why not? I want to buy it. You should. You got an extra 20 mil, right?
Watch his storytelling in this.
All right, guys, welcome to 2545 Hutton, aka the Hutton House, which is part of the agency, one of my favorite companies in the world. You have not seen this home because it is totally exclusive for limited time. Let's go. Obviously, this is a home that has an extraordinary amount of volume and the space. Close to 9,000 square feet on just under an acre. And as you walk in here, you've got your wine wall, dining area, an additional bar with stone backsplash. And as you come in here on the other side of the dining room area, you've got this breakfast nook, beautiful stone island. I had an opportunity to hang out with the builder and the architect. He shared with me that he really drew his inspiration from modern Scandinavian architecture, but clearly there's also been an influence from some of the mid-century icons. These lighting fixtures, all of the wood treatments, this color palette, the thought and intention behind this design is just off the charts. You DM me and I set up a private tour for you where all your friends are like, oh my goodness, how did you get into that house? It wasn't even on the market. You're like, I don't know. I followed Kevion and he set it up for me. This is like the count your blessings hallway right here. As you look up at the sky and have like 40 feet to just say, wow. Let me give you the full experience.
All right. So it's a good starter home, right? Simple tour, though, of a house. But the way that he tells the story, even bringing in the developers of the property, what inspired them to create this specific home, right? Very simple, small details. But that's what people want, is they want you to take them behind the scenes, right? And be able to show them unique properties or just unique scenarios here in Utah. You can even do this with communities. So rather than saying, hey, well, I don't have a listing or a luxury listing to go tour. Well, why not go? How many of you have been down to Vineyard City with the new grocery store that's been put in, right? I drove past, I didn't know it was already open and running, but drove past the other day and was like, oh my gosh, they built this so quick, right? So why not go give a tour of that area, right? Do a drive by and just kind of talk about like, hey, do you know what's happening in Vineyard City and the road that they're building to be a connector all the way through to Saratoga Springs? There's massive development happening in Utah County, and just kind of sharing some perspective on a local perspective that's not tied to a specific property. So you can do that as well. Okay. So number two is storytelling. Number three is something called news jacking. How many of you are familiar with this? How many of you use this as a strategy right now? Raise your hand. None of you. Okay. This is the easiest one to put on your playbook, and I recommend doing it at least once a month. Okay. You can do it more often, but at least once a month, what you should be doing is pay attention to any kind of news. How often does Fox News and CNN and CBS and all these newscasters, how often do they actually present news? How consistent are they?
Very.
Once a month? Once a year?
The second.
Every single day and almost every hour of the day, they're reporting on something, right? What you want to do is start paying attention, not to the news itself, but asking, is there a way I can spin this into a real estate news piece? Okay. Because what you're doing is taking somebody else's research and homework that they've done and turning that into something you can just go ahead and newsjack. You're stealing that article and now you're going to just give your own twist on it, right? So I'm going to show you some examples of this. So number one, the strategy of newsjacking is that you're riding the wave of what people are already talking about, okay? So like all these different news outlets, they already know what people want to hear and talk about. So you might as well use that to your advantage of just jumping on that wave. The goal though is you have to do it pretty dang close to where that news has come out, right? So that's the strategy, speed with this one. So number one is national headlines, turn that into local real estate angles. So I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that with, for example, the Super Bowl that just happened. Is the Super Bowl something that's a news of like who won and who didn't? Isn't that a big event that everybody pays attention to? So why not use that and somehow tie it into Utah real estate, which I'm going to show you how to do, okay? Number two is market shifts. What is your expert take? So when a market shift happens, what is your perspective on it? They just released the number of foreclosures across the country. Does anybody know what that number is? 40,000 last month. Okay. So are you talking about it? Most agents say, heck no, I'm not going to tell people about that. That's going to scare them. Well, you're the one that's supposed to give them context of this actually is just pre-pandemic normal levels of foreclosures. It is nothing compared to 2008. But the news doesn't say that. They just say 40,000 foreclosures just hit. And they scare people. You need to turn that into the reality of actually, let me tell you what that really means and how here in Utah, we're in such a different ballpark. Find the stats on Utah. Well, how many of those foreclosures happened here in Utah? We're one of the lowest states with foreclosure stats. And you can find that very easy. Perplexity AI is the tool that I use for research. You can just ask it how many foreclosures, if anybody has that downloaded, Perplexity AI, it's a free AI tool. Just ask it, how many foreclosures did Utah have in 2025, the entire year? And then number three is trending topics, how it impacts buyers or sellers. So the playbook is find headlines, talk about the market shifts and how it actually is impacting buyers and sellers in our market. So for example, if the Fed's drop rates, what does this mean for buyers? Post it within 2 hours. As soon as you see the Fed announcement, now go ahead and make a post about the Fed announcement and say, here's what it actually means for Utah buyers or sellers, right? So let's look at some examples of this. So a generic post on the left-hand side would be, hey, happy Monday, thinking about buying or selling, I'm here to help, right? It gets 12 likes from your mom and from friends, right? And then on the right-hand side, so this is a newsjacking article. The NAR just called this a housing crisis. Utah's inventory is up 20%. One of the biggest improvements since XYZ. Here's what this means for your market, right? So just take the headline and then you present something that tells them the narrative. What does it actually mean? Here's a video. Redfin brings in home search to ChatGPT through the new app. Most agents would say, I'm not telling my clients about that, right? If you think that your expertise is having access to properties, you're going to be out of business in the next couple of years. Information is the easiest part for people to get nowadays. So this is where this is a perfect classic example of newsjacking.
So more big changes in the real estate industry as the second largest real estate portal, Redfin, has now directly integrated inside of ChatGPT for their search experience, which means that when a home buyer is looking for a home, they don't have to go to Zillow. They don't have to go to homes.com or realtor.com. They go directly to their GPT and everything is organically right in there. And my God, guys, that changes search completely because search is no longer linear where you go to a site and you say 3-bedroom, 2-bath and the town and it shows them all. and then it comes up with a listing description and it's all ego based around the home. Now people are going to go directly into GPT and they're going to say what they want. And that listing description is going to matter completely, because now they're going to say things like the walkability to their favorite things and what kind of countertops it has and all of this stuff. And if you're a home seller out there and you're interviewing agents, you need to understand this. You need to ask and make sure that the agent you're hiring understands this, because experience alone is not enough anymore.
I'm going to pause for a second. What is he doing right there? He's selling his expertise. He says, if you don't have an agent who knows how to do this, you need to pay attention right now, because they're not going to maximize the sale of your home. Right? So he's planting a seed in their mind of, well, when I want an agent, I want one that is AI enabled. Right? So he flipped something that most agents, again, should seem like they might want to shy away from, and he's using it to his advantage with this article that was just thrown out. And he just puts the article behind him. Right? Very simple. Does this make sense? Let's finish it, because he has a really good point on how he ends it.
Because now if they don't understand how to write a listing description to make sure that your home shows up no matter what, not just because it was in the bedrooms and baths or whatever it is, you're going to be at disadvantage now. It's not just about what kind of experience they've had in the past. So all of this stuff matters now. It also opens the door. My God, will this bring on a national MLS? Who knows? There's all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I kind of like this because it levels the playing field, so to say, but it also puts an emphasis on people who are pivoting for the sake of the consumer. And I like that. It keeps people ahead. What do you guys think?
So what did he plant that last seed? And he also said how important it is. He basically said, I am an agent that's pivoting. I'm one that's adapting, right? And what he's speaking to, if some of you are like, okay, I don't know what he's talking about with this GPT thing. So now ChatGPT has both Zillow and Redfin built in. What somebody can do, I was logged in so I can show you this. I can just go and say, I'm looking for a home in Pleasant Grove. That's 5 bedrooms, 3 bath, and I'd like some white countertops. So you can't do that on the MLS. You can look for the bedrooms and bath, but I can get specific to, I want a fenced backyard, right? So chat is able to look through the images and find homes that fit that specific outcome, and then it surfaces it right inside of ChatGPT. And I can say, tell me more about this house, and it will spit out and generate a report on that property. I'm going to show that in an upcoming team meeting, how you can do that. We just don't have the time right now to get into it, but that is something you should be aware of, and you should test it out and now also use it to your advantage, because it is pretty slick. Okay, so here's some examples. I'll send these slides out. I want to show the next one, which is like, I just went and said, I went to Claude, is the personal AI that I like using most. And I said, go find 3 news articles from today or from this past couple weeks that we can turn into a newsjacking article. This is what it spit out for me. So this is the exact one. It said, well, hey, the Super Bowl just happened a few weeks ago. It's still pretty fresh. So the national headline is the Seattle Seahawks win the Super Bowl. And so this is the headline that you would put in your post. The Seahawks just won the Super Bowl, and Utah's about to experience something 10 times bigger. Will that catch your attention to read? Do you see how I just flipped one of the biggest events in sports history, right, which is the Super Bowl, into Utah real estate somehow, right? So people just want to click to find out more. Here's the details. So go down here. So Seattle just won the championship. Their luxury market heat up within 6 months. I told it to shorten it and condense it just for the slide, but the initial post that it gave me was far more in depth, and it explained how whenever there's a major sporting event, the Olympics, the Super Bowl, the NBA championships, any city that hosts those events has a huge boom in their real estate market afterwards. Why? Exposure, but also infrastructure. How much money is spent into improving and adding in new businesses and just improving the overall space before those things come. For example, when is the Olympics happening here in Utah? Okay. When are they starting to improve infrastructure for that? Already, right? So this stuff happens way in advance. And so then when people come in, and obviously people who are usually going to those events have money, they end up buying properties in those areas. So what this is said, hey, Utah is about to have that same exact experience, but way bigger. The Olympics is way bigger than the Super Bowl, right? Because it's a worldwide event. And so is 8 years from hosting 2034 Olympics. And so basically you're just explaining what's going to happen economically to Utah in that timeline. And I wish I would have kept the original post because it actually went through the data. It showed the amount of money, and I can't remember, it might have been like 30 billion or something crazy of money that's going to flow through Utah between now and 2034 to improve all the improvements that's going to happen. And so they said, the last part of the post, it said, smart money is investing in Utah real estate now. What is that planting the seed for your potential buyers, sellers, or investors? I want to be smart money, right? So that's just where it took an existing news article and then turned it into how do we turn it back into a real estate conversation for Utah. Any questions on that? That makes sense? You don't have to have the ideas. You just have to go ask AI, what are the top 10 stories that we can do a newsjacking article on? And then if you want to turn it into a video, you can, or you can put it in an email newsletter or just a plain social media post and create some sort of image, right? That maps for Instagram or Facebook. And then you can just create a post around how the Olympics is going to have a huge impact on Utah's real estate. Number 4 is micro content repurposing. So if you do, and if you're willing to do video, one of the easiest methods that we found is just doing a podcast. Now, the reason why is because if you structure it properly, you can just get good at asking questions. You don't have to have the answers, right? And you're going to say, ChatGPT or Claude, I'm a person on this topic. Give me 10 great questions I can ask. And then you let somebody else be the expert. So you're going to bring in maybe a lender. You're going to bring in, a trusted advisor in your real estate vendor network, right? And you're going to just ask them questions. So this allows you to then go take that whole long form. Maybe it's 20 minutes long, and there's a tool called Opus Clips. Opus Clips. All you do is put the YouTube video URL or the Google Drive link to that video, whatever it is, into Opus Clips, and it automatically will create 30 to 40 short form clips with captions, and it will even break it up where you can see, like, for example, with me and Mike, it split us up, one of us on top, one on bottom for this video, and it did it all in about maybe 15 minutes. So you have basically a content editor in your pocket, okay? So you can then repurpose that and extract your top 5 clips, and it also ranks them on how likely they are to do or perform well on social media. You can change the aesthetics and everything like that, but very easy to create additional content pieces. Number 5 is educational-based marketing. So position yourself as the teacher, not the salesperson. You want to be the trusted advisor. That's the role that you want to earn. So if you're doing live buyer or seller workshop, you're providing downloadable guides, a first-time homebuyer's guide, or an investor's playbook. You're doing a masterclass series, maybe an investor's 101 class. How many of you came to sales meeting last week where we talked about, or what was the topic? That was a couple weeks ago. We had 2 people come in and talk about
Financing?
creative financing. Yeah, right. So you could do something similar for clients. We're doing a creative financing. If you want to buy properties, there's many options available. Q&A sessions. So people don't buy when they understand you, they buy when they feel understood. So if you're speaking to a specific demographic of people or your avatars, and they say, how to help investors, or how to help first-time homebuyers, that's where they're more likely to gravitate towards your services. Number 6 is social proof engineering. So trust is built before the first conversation. So are you capturing reviews, and how are you sharing those reviews? Are you posting on social media and sharing the wins that your clients, maybe they said how streamlined the process was, or how you helped them navigate where you thought that, or they thought they weren't even going to be able to close on a home because of lending, and you were able to get the deal done, whatever it might be. So sharing some of those wins publicly is actually very valuable. This is one of the most underutilized tools today. And going, Terry, your point too earlier, sometimes we don't share this stuff because we don't want to brag, is what it seems like. But when it's your clients writing it and it's just a screenshot, they're the ones bragging, right? And you can just put a simple note like, I'm so grateful to be able to help people in these scenarios. This is why I love doing what I do. You can keep it very simple, right? I have some more videos, so I want to jump through this really quick. But this is the one that I've seen somebody else do, is a first-time homebuyer custom GPT. So here's where it's a fine line. You do not want to position AI as like, this is a replacement to me. Instead of asking me all these questions, you can ask this AI all the questions, right? You do not want to make them learn how to use it. So it cannot be complex. And you do not want it to have any kind of hard selling built into it. So again, for the context, you can build a AI assistant. You can train it on exactly how to perform. One of the things that you would do is teach it to be a first-time homebuyer's guide, your executive assistant essentially on helping first-time homebuyers. Any questions that they could ask, it's going to answer. But it should also be trained on key moments where it should surface up certain vendors, right? So like if they ask about lending, it should say, hey, here's the couple of lenders that I recommend. You can pre-program it where you're giving your lenders information. So now they've got their phone number, text in, and they even can spit out an email to send to that person for them, right? And then on the right-hand side, these are the do if you're going to build a custom GPT for this. So frame it as like, hey, I built this so that you don't have to Google bad mortgage advice at 2 a.m. So you're turning this into a positive or a benefit for your clients. This is a free resource when I'm not available. So if you guys have some questions pop up, you can ask my assistant that I've trained personally, and it's able to answer questions. Anything it can answer, I'll be able to help you guys. But it is a very good resource to go to. Now, how many questions can ChatGPT answer? Unlimited, a lot, right? It has a pretty nice, so what it's doing is taking all the information on the web, but also taking what you've trained it on. And when I say training, it does not take a lot. This might seem like it's an overwhelming process. This might take 15 minutes to set up. Okay, so it is pretty easy. And so again, you can have triggers in there. So you, hey, whenever they say this or XYZ, trigger it, say, hey, I think that it might actually be good to have Shoni come in and run this scenario with you. Here's a text message you can send over to him really quick, right? It'll bring me in at valuable times. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up, show just a few videos that are what I think are good and simple marketing. One, I'll show Emily. She's an agent here in Utah. And this is one where, like, if you don't like talking on video, that's fine. This is something simple where she didn't have to talk at all, but it's very easy to replicate this kind of video. Simple, right? Very easy. Here's one, Kev. I actually like him. If you don't follow him on Instagram, he does really good content. But here's a funny video.
Kev, what happened? You okay?
Yeah, no problem.
What happened?
I called her and she said no. And like I explained everything to her about this. Like 18,000 square feet on 2 acres. You know how rare that is?
Yeah.
She doesn't get it. I said, just sell everything. Let's just live here. The life that we could have here.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced anything like this? Like the attention to detail. You know, in this whole house, 18,000 square feet, there's only 12 canned lights and they're all in showers. Just 12. The rest are custom lights. You know what that could do for my circadian rhythm? She doesn't care.
He called his wife and she said no, it's buying the house.
Get up the building. You don't know. Whose side are you on? Did you send her the video?
Yeah.
Did she respond?
Left me on red.
She left you on red.
She left me on red.
KP's video?
Yeah. Left me on red.
I didn't figure this out. Two. You know it.
Simple. Last thing I want to show you, is anybody using AI right now to create marketing videos? Okay. If you need help, talk with Mariah. She's our marketing expert in the office. Here's some examples of how people are currently using AI to create marketing videos. These are images, just for clarity. These were pictures, still shots that then AI turned into videos.
Word on the streets, I make it look easy. Better, cool. Easy, easy. Word on the streets, I make it look easy. Smooth, smooth, easy. Word on the streets, I make it look easy. Easy, 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 easy. Word on the streets, I make it look easy. Easy.
All of these ones are AI generated. Just gonna show a few of these really quick. These people are
72, almost done.
Dennis.
Does AI also pick the music for you?
It does. Yeah. It will put together basically the whole package for you. And it's just the interesting thing is even just like staging. At one point, virtual staging was a pretty big deal. I think that's where you're going to find AI taking over that space. This is one last one I'll show you, but just like seeing how it can actually stage homes virtually, and it looks way better than the old school stuff that we used to use. But you just want to be aware of how to use these tools.
Let me make the music to make the movements. I spit this and go and do it. I'm not losing. I want retribution and restitution. Where that's confusion. My execution is evolution. My soul is losing. Understand, don't give a damn. You got a paper route. You got some dreams, but it's designed so you can make it out. Go to work, you pay your bills, no time to think about. You're getting paid, but they never bring the change around.
So some of these tools, 30, 40 bucks a month. All right. So there's just many different ways to market today than there was in the past. And we just need to focus on how can I just, again, from today, my hope is don't try to go and install everything. Just say, what's one new marketing strategy I can deploy this year? Or if you want to be very ambitious, say every quarter, I'm going to add layers of this. I'm going to start with one for the next 3 months. And then I'm going to roll into another strategy in Q3, right? So that way you can kind of take it one bite at a time. But just be aware, agents who are starting to use marketing strategies are going to really outperform in the next 3 to 5 years. Okay. Ahas and takeaways. What'd you catch from today? What was that, Robin? What do you feel like is the easiest one that you're planning on installing? News jacking? Yeah. Yeah. It's the easiest one. Somebody else is already doing the work for you right now, creating articles. You can just rip off. No. Terry, did you have something? Thank you.
Reels, but I've got to find out some better ways to gather them. Testimonials.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to clients and getting some good testimonials. Love it. Okay, well, we'll send out these slides. This little Notion page as well, there's a bunch of other videos on here that you can go watch. Even some Super Bowl ads that you should study and say, that's actually some good psychology that they use that I can go ahead and add into my marketing strategy. So go watch those videos because I think you'll be entertained. These will be some good ones for you to study. Cool. Okay, have a great week. We'll see you next week.